Imagine this. A vast sea of dark clouds churns above the boundaries of mortal and divine realms, and from that storm emerges a new chapter in legend. This is the world of Nezha 2, and the story you're about to hear is not just a tale of gods and monsters, but of identity, destiny, rebellion, and the fierce will to choose one's own path. In the previous film, our hero Nezha and his friend Ao Bing plunged headlong into the cosmic struggle. Nezha, born of the demon orb, Ao Bing, the dragon prince of the East Sea, and they ended that journey shattered, their bodies destroyed, their spirits surviving by a hair. Now we pick up where we left off. Nezha and Ao Bing, their physical forms in ruin, their souls held within the mysterious seven-colored lotus, are dangling on the edge of oblivion. Their master, Taiyi Genren, moves to save them, using the sacred lotus as not only body forge, but fate breaker. The premise, alone, their spirits would dissipate. Together, they stand a chance to live again. But regeneration is only the beginning. As their bodies are reconstructed, Nezha tempered in fire, Ao Bing in water, opposing forces stir. The cunning, immortal Shen Xiaobao arrives at Chentang Pass, invited by the Dragon King Ao Guang to exact revenge for his son. A rift opens. Demons imprisoned beneath the sea surge upward. The dragon clans break chains. The mortal world trembles. Nezha, confined within the lotus shell, begins to understand that to survive, he must share more than body with Ao Bing. For Ao Bing's body fails to hold, his regeneration falters, his form begins dissolving, and so Taiyi proposes a radical union. For 7 days, Nezha and Ao Bing must co-inhabit the same sanctuary body, their spirits interlaced, sharing strength, weakness, and purpose. It's a shocking idea. The once adversaries now bound inside one fragile vessel. Outside, Chentang Pass is under siege, the Dragon King's wrath unleashed, the common people caught in the crossfire of gods and demons. Nezha's parents, Li Jing and Lady Yin, fight to protect their home, their son's home, as the world unravels around them. Meanwhile, Nezha's inner fight begins. He is no longer simply the demon child who refused fate. He must now grow into the hero who defines it. Ao Bing, once his companion, his opposite, his friend and rival, must accept that his place is not a royal lineage, not a predetermined path, but whatever they forge together. And then there's the Chan sect's hidden rot. Beneath the glimmer of immortal wisdom, senior immortals like Wuliang Xianwong manipulate manifest destiny, assembling puppet gods while true power festers in the margins. The story pulses with this revelation, not just a fight against external chaos, but a rebellion from within. Nezha and Ao Bing join forces not just because of fate, but because they must defy the world's dictates. The battles escalate. Terrains shift from the human stronghold of Chentang Pass to the Jade Palace of Yushu, to the Lotus Chamber, to undersea depths where dragons writhe and laws shatter. Nezha and Ao Bing, sharing one body, one purpose, face the ultimate battle. Can they reclaim their forms? Can they survive the 7-day trial? Can they expose the Chan sect's hypocrisy? Can the dragon clans release their chains? Can Chentang Pass endure? The climax, destructive, emotional, visually staggering. They succeed, but not without sacrifice. Identity, so long a fractured mirror, becomes a shared image. Fate, once sealed in celestial script, cracks under the force of will. In the end, the bonds forged between two souls, between father and son, between mortal and divine, are stronger than the shackles of destiny. And as the final frames fade, a new chapter beckons, for the world of gods, of men, of dragons, of lotus roots and thunderbolts has changed forever. So lean in, because every spinning lotus petal, every roar of a dragon, every crack of the whip in the sky carries the question, what will Nezha do next? What will Ao Bing accept? Will the Chan immortals fall or reform? And in a cosmos governed by ancient rule books, can two boys carve their own legend? Buckle up. This is mythology rewritten, and the adventure has only just begun. Let's now dive deep into the heart of the saga. The key characters of Nezha 2, the forces that drive the drama, and the voices that bring them to life. As our story resumed with two shattered souls reborn in one strange vessel, so too do these characters emerge, each carrying weight, conflict, hope, transformation. First, at the center of it all stands Nezha himself, the rebellious, fire-tempered hero born of the demon orb, son of the guardians of Chentang Pass. In the Mandarin version of the film, the young Nezha, child form, is voiced by Lu Yanting, while his adolescent form is voiced by Joseph Cao. In the English version, that dynamic is mirrored by Crystal Lee for Nezha and Griffin Poitou as teen Nezha. Nezha embodies defiance and evolution, born as a threat, rising to a hero, questioning what it means to be the demon child or a savior. Then we have Ao Bing, once the proud dragon prince, the spirit pearl incarnate, destined for greatness within the seas, yet now bound in regeneration and shared body with Nezha. In Mandarin, he is voiced by Han Mo. In the English dubbing, he is voiced by Alex Le. Ao Bing's arc is one of legacy, pressure, identity, and partnership. Once apart, now intertwined with Nezha in body, soul, destiny. Their parents, too, are paramount in the story. Lady Yin, Nezha's mother, stalwart chiefess of the pass, loving yet firm. In Mandarin, voiced by Lu Qi. In the English dub, Lady Yin is voiced by the Oscar-winning Michelle Yeoh. Then Li Jing, Nezha's father, commander of the past, voiced in Mandarin by Chen Hao, and in the English version by Vincent Rodriguez III. Their presence grounds the mythic, but also humanizes the stakes: home, family, protection, failure, redemption. Next, the mystical guide, Tai Genren, the Taoist immortal who saves Nezha and Ao Bing from oblivion, who fashions their new bodies from the seven-colored lotus. Mandarin voice by Zhang Jiaming. English dub by Rick Ziff. He is wise, humorous, conflicted. His task enormous, his methods unorthodox. Then on the opposing side, we meet Wuliang Xianwong, Master Wuliang, the ruthless elder immortal of the Chan sect, ambitious, scheming, voiced in Mandarin by Wang Deshun, and in English dub by William Utai. His presence raises the spiritual and political dimension of the narrative, immortals playing for power, mortals caught in their games. We also have the Dragon King figure, Ao Guang, the Dragon King of the East Sea, and father of Ao Bing, whose wrath and grief drive major conflict. Mandarin voices Li Nan in his dragon form and for human form by Yu Chen. English dub for Ao Guang, Christopher Swindle. He is a tragic figure and hazard. When a father fears he lost his son, he unleashes ancient powers to avenge the perceived loss. Another major figure, Shen Xiaobao, once martial brother of Tai Yi, now a leopard demon turned immortal, manipulator, Ao Bing's former master. Mandarin voice, Yang Wei. English dub by Daniel Reardon. His loyalties shift, his motives obscure. He ignites demons from beneath the sea and sets Chentang Pass ablaze. And finally, though there are many characters, we must mention Ao Run, the Dragon Queen of the West Sea, one of Ao Guang's siblings, who grants Shen Xiaobao the sky-splitting claw. Mandarin voice, Zhou Yongxi. Each of these characters is intertwined with the mythic machinery of the film, yet deeply human in their fears, hopes, and desires. What makes this ensemble so compelling is how the voice actors, in both the original Mandarin and the international English dub versions, lend life and nuance to these archetypes. For example, Michelle Yeoh stepping in as Lady Yin brings not only star power, but an emotional resonance to the mother figure caught between war and family. Each character is more than myth machine. Nezha's defiance, Ao Bing's burden, Taiya's gamble, Wuliang's ambition, Ao Guang's vengeance. They all converge to give the viewer someone to root for, someone to fear, someone to cheer. So to summarize the main cast in full, Nezha, child, Lü Yanting, Mandarin, Nezha, adolescent, Joseph Cao, Mandarin, Ao Bing, Han Mo, Mandarin, Lady Yin, Lu Qi, Mandarin, Michelle Yeoh, English, Li Jing, Chen Hao, Mandarin, Vincent Rodriguez III, English, Taiyi Zhenren, Zhang Jiaming, Mandarin, Rick Zief, English, Wuliang Xianwong, Wang Deshun, Mandarin, William Utai, English, Ao Guang, Li Nan, Mandarin, Christopher Swindle, English, Shen Xiaobao, Yang Wei, Mandarin, Daniel Reardon, English, Ao Run, Zhou Yongxi, Mandarin, Kari Walgren, English, and others around them. These voices fuel their souls. In the immersive world of Nezha 2, knowing who these figures are and who speaks for them allows us to grasp the emotional undercurrents of the film: identity, legacy, rebellion, sacrifice, redemption. Their voices resonate across languages, their arcs connect to our own yearnings, and as the final frames roll, as Nezha raises his fist or Ao Bing breathes in icy flame, we hear not just myth, but the beating heart of each character's journey. And we want to know what they'll do next, how they'll change, whom they'll save or lose. And as we peel back the layers of this mesmerizing story, it becomes clear that Nezha 2 is not just an epic fantasy or a spectacle of myth reborn. It's a profound exploration of what it means to be human in a world ruled by God's fate and unyielding tradition. Beneath its blazing visuals and colossal battles lies a beating heart, a series of timeless themes that speak to rebellion, redemption, and the eternal struggle to define one's own identity. The film's core message echoes louder than thunder. Destiny is not a chain. It's a challenge. From the moment Nezha opens his eyes within the lotus of rebirth, we understand that this story is about defiance, about the courage to reject the roles imposed by others and to forge meaning through choice. Nezha, born from the demon orb, is fated to bring calamity, but his journey insists on one truth: you are not what the world expects you to be. This becomes the film's philosophical backbone. The war between fate and freedom, the fire and the water, the child and the monster, all waging within one soul. Yet the film does not stop there. It deepens this message through the intertwining of Nezha and Ao Bing. Their shared existence, two souls bound within one body, transforms the notion of individuality into a meditation on unity, empathy, and shared pain. Through their conflict and eventual harmony, the movie asks, can two opposing forces coexist without destroying each other? Can differences become strength? It's a reflection of our own divided world, suggesting that understanding, not dominance, is what saves us. Beyond fate and identity, Nezha 2 pierces into the heart of legacy and parental love. Li Jing and Lady Yin embody the struggle of parents torn between duty and compassion, between protecting the world and protecting their child. Their journey shows that love is not blind acceptance, but a painful act of faith, believing in your child even when the world brands them a threat. In this way, the film holds up a mirror to every family, every parent, every child who's ever fought to be seen for who they truly are. Another theme that burns through every scene is sacrifice, the idea that creation demands loss and growth demands pain. The lotus that restores Nezha and Aobing is a symbol of rebirth born through suffering, a cycle that mirrors life itself. Every victory in the film is paid for in pieces of the self, a limb, a friend, a belief. Yet it is through those sacrifices that transformation happens. Nezha, too, doesn't glorify perfection. It glorifies perseverance. It tells us that heroes are not born divine. They are shaped in fire and tempered by failure. Then there is the moral commentary on power and corruption, embodied in the Chan sect and the immortal hierarchy. Through figures like Wuliang Xianwong and Shen Xiaobao, the film exposes how even the divine can fall prey to greed and pride, showing that moral decay is not bound by mortality. The immortals who claim to control destiny are revealed as flawed beings, their illusions of order masking fear of change. Against them stands Nezha, the ultimate disruptor, a symbol of revolution against the old world's hypocrisy. The message is piercing. True divinity lies not in birthright or title, but in compassion, in courage, in the ability to stand for truth even when the heavens themselves tremble. The film also touches on duality, not merely as good versus evil, but as balance. Fire and water, Nezha and Aobing, human and divine, destruction and creation, all are halves of a greater whole. The story whispers that balance, not victory, is the true goal of existence. In embracing both rage and mercy, the hero finds completeness. The merging of opposites becomes the path to transcendence, suggesting that only when we accept all sides of ourselves can we truly evolve. And perhaps the most intimate theme of all is rebirth, not just of the body, but of spirit. Every character, from Nezha to his parents, from Aobing to Taiyi Zhenren, faces a moment of reckoning, where they must let go of who they were to become something new. It's the cycle of the lotus, death feeding life, endings birthing beginnings. The film's moral compass turns toward hope, showing that even in the ashes of failure, there lies the spark of renewal. In the end, Nezha, too, is not a story about gods, dragons, or demons. It's a story about us, about those who refuse to be defined by their past, who challenge the destiny written for them, who rise from rejection to acceptance, from chaos to clarity. It's a cinematic meditation on the power of choice, the beauty of imperfection, and the endless struggle between who we are and who we are meant to become. It tells every viewer, no matter how small, how lost, how misunderstood, that within the fire of defiance burns the light of creation. And as the credits roll, with the lotus petals swirling like galaxies around our reborn hero, we're left with one overwhelming realization. Destiny may be written in the stars, but only those brave enough to rewrite it will ever truly shine. As the story unfolds, the heart of Nezha, too, beats not through its battles or its divine spectacle, but through the ever-shifting, ever-deepening web of relationships that bind its characters together. Every bond is tested, every loyalty redefined, every emotion laid bare against the backdrop of cosmic chaos. At its core, this film is a tapestry of connection, fragile, fierce, and utterly transformative. Nezha and Aobing's relationship, the central axis of the film, evolves from uneasy alliance to something profound and unbreakable. In the first film, their friendship was born out of defiance, a spark of understanding between two beings caught in the machinery of fate. But in Nezha 2, that spark is thrown into the forge of trial. When their souls are bound within a single vessel, what begins as friction becomes a lesson in empathy. They are forced to see the world through each other's eyes, to feel each other's pain, fear, and hope. The fiery defiance of Nezha clashes against Aobing's calm discipline, but as they share one heartbeat, they begin to understand that their strengths only mean something when united. This fusion becomes both literal and spiritual, a representation of balance, the merging of water and fire, yin and yang. Their relationship is no longer simply friendship or rivalry. It becomes a bond of shared destiny, one that transcends mortality and bloodline. Through this, both characters are reborn. Nezha learns patience, understanding, and restraint, while Aobing discovers passion, courage, and rebellion. Their evolution is not about dominance, but harmony, about finding power not in isolation, but in connection. Yet, the transformation doesn't stop there. The film delves deeply into Nezha's relationship with his parents, Li Jing and Lady Yin, a thread that remains as emotionally charged as ever. Once defined by misunderstanding and fear, their bond undergoes a tender yet painful evolution. Li Jing, who once viewed his son as a danger to the world, comes to see him as its savior. His stern exterior cracks as he realizes that love cannot be measured in control, that a father's duty is not to shield his child from the world, but to stand beside him against it. Lady Yin, ever the heart of the family, becomes Nezha's anchor, a constant reminder that compassion is the truest strength. Her faith never wavers, even as the heavens themselves turn against them. Their love, tempered by sacrifice, becomes the quiet heartbeat beneath the roaring chaos of gods and dragons. In contrast, Aobing's connection with his father, the Dragon King Ao Guang, mirrors this evolution, but from a darker angle. Their bond, rooted in expectation and pride, fractures under the weight of betrayal and loss. Ao Guang, blinded by grief and wrath, sees his son's unity with Nezha as a desecration, a rejection of dragon heritage. Their conflict becomes symbolic of generational strife, a father clinging to the past and a son daring to change the future. Only through suffering and revelation does Ao Guang begin to see his own reflection in his son's defiance. When father and son finally reconcile, it is not through words, but through sacrifice, the acknowledgement that love must sometimes destroy pride to survive. Then there is the dynamic between Nezha and his mentor, Taiyi Zhenren, the bumbling immortal whose wisdom often hides beneath a veil of humor. In Nezha 2, Taiyi's role matures alongside his pupil. Once merely a teacher, he becomes a father figure in his own right, a guide willing to break celestial law to give his student a chance at life. His faith in Nezha is no longer about prophecy or destiny. It's about trust in the human spirit. Their bond embodies one of the film's greatest truths, that mentorship is not about molding another in your image, but about helping them find their own. And through Taiyi's choices, we see the sacrifices mentors must make, the loneliness of guiding a hero who must one day surpass you. Even the relationships among the immortals evolve in striking ways. Wuliang Xianwong and Shen Xiaobao, bound by ambition and jealousy, reveal the poisonous nature of power when it becomes detached from empathy. Their relationships, built on rivalry and manipulation, stand as dark mirrors to Nezha and Ao Bing's unity. Through them, the film contrasts connection born of love with connection born of greed, showing how one heals the world while the other destroys it. Every relationship in Nezha, too, mirrors the larger philosophical struggle, the choice between isolation and connection, pride and understanding, destiny and freedom. By the film's end, these evolving bonds redefine what it means to be a hero. Nezha, once the embodiment of rage, becomes the symbol of compassion. Ao Bing, once the emblem of duty, becomes the voice of free will. Their parents learn that love is stronger than prophecy. Their masters learn that rebellion can be a form of wisdom. Together, they weave a message that resonates through every frame. We are not meant to walk our paths alone. The fire of Nezha burns brighter because of the water that tempers it. The water of Ao Bing flows stronger because of the flame that drives it. And as their relationships evolve, so too does the world around them, proving that in a universe governed by fate, it is love, flawed, fragile, but fiercely human, that has the power to rewrite the stars. Diving now into the intricate dance of relationships that power Nezha 2, we see how the connections between the main characters evolve in dramatic, heart-rending ways. What began as simple bonds of duty or rivalry transform into shared trauma, deep empathy, and ultimately, mutual transformation. Early in the story, Nezha and Ao Bing are linked by fate, but separated by roles. One born of a demon orb, the other, dragon prince of the East Sea. They are allies born of necessity, yet emerging from worlds that fear and reject them. But as the narrative forces them to share a body and endure trials together, their relationship evolves from mere cooperation into something far deeper. They begin to sense each other's pain, to trust each other's strengths, and compensate for each other's weaknesses. The clash of fire and water becomes not a conflict to be resolved, but a symphony to be orchestrated. They shift from you versus me to we together, in soul and purpose. Meanwhile, Nezha's relationship with his parents, Li Jing and Lady Yin, undergoes a profound metamorphosis. In earlier times, their bond was strained by prophecy, fear, and rejection. Parents guarding the world from their child rather than embracing him. In this sequel, however, the parents' love becomes a crucible of sacrifice and understanding. Lady Yin's hug through pain, Li Jing's acknowledgement of his son's courage rather than his danger, the relationship matures, laden with the fear of loss and the hope of redemption. It turns into a testament to unconditional love, not as protection from the world, but standing with the child against the world. On the opposing side, Ao Bing's relationship with his father, Ao Guang, is a mirror image in shape, but opposite in tone. What began as honor and expectation becomes resentment and conflict, when Ao Bing's alliance with Nezha and his new form is seen as betrayal. The father-son bond fractures under the weight of duty and loss, and only through suffering and revelation does it rebuild, not back into what it was, but into something new, respect not enforced, love not obliged. Then there's the teacher-pupil connection between Taiyi, Zhenren, and Nezha, with Ao Bing by extension. At first, a guiding presence. In the sequel, it becomes a partnership of trust and risk. Taiyi doesn't just mold the hero, he bets his own standing on his students. The dynamic shifts from instructor to comrade, from prophecy to choice. Even the antagonistic relationships carry this evolution. The immortal hierarchy, especially represented by Wuliang Xianwong and his manipulative networks, begin as inscrutable opponents. But as the story digs into loyalties and betrayals, we understand the motivations behind rivalry, the personal stakes behind divine corruption. Those adversarial bonds reveal their own emotional logic. Across these arcs, the essential movement is from isolation to connection. Nezha is no longer the lone demon child fighting his fate. Ao Bing is no longer the majestic dragon prince defined by lineage alone. Their families, their mentors, their enemies, all are recalibrated in light of shared journey. Every relationship becomes transformative, not static ties, but crucibles for identity, agency, redemption. By the time the climax unleashes its full force, we see not merely who stands together, but who has become together. Relationships are rewritten, roles reversed, expectations shattered. The once rival souls now walk side by side. The parents who feared becoming pillars of strength and vulnerability at once. The fathers rebuilding rather than commanding. The teacher learning rather than dictating. In the end, the evolution of relationships in Nezha 2 is not just a subplot, it is the story. It tells us that no mythic battle hips belong in isolation. No hero can rise alone. It shows that identity is forged in the crucible of connection, and destiny is rewritten not by fate, but by the bonds we choose to keep, the trust we earn, the people we fight for. Visually, Nezha 2 is nothing short of a thunderstorm turned into art, a cinematic explosion of color, movement, and soul that takes everything the first film accomplished and pushes it to an entirely new dimension. The animation doesn't just tell a story, it breathes it. Every frame feels alive, every flicker of light and shadow crafted with precision and emotion. It's as if the artists have turned the elements themselves, fire, water, wind, and light, into brushstrokes on a living canvas. The film's visual language is a constant duel between chaos and harmony, a reflection of the inner conflicts of its heroes. The color palette alone carries storytelling weight. The burning oranges and scarlets that follow Nezha's fireborn power clash and then blend with the ethereal blues and silvers of Ao Bing's dragon aura, creating visual poetry that mirrors their merging destinies. The cinematography elevates this dance to mythic proportions, sweeping through celestial battlefields, diving beneath oceans that shimmer like glass, and gliding across lotus petals, suspended in the void. The camera moves like a living spirit, fluid, daring, unbound by gravity or time, yet always intimate when it needs to be, capturing the smallest tremor in Nezha's eyes, or the ripple of doubt across Ao Bing's face. In its quieter moments, the animation lingers on details that make the world feel real. The softness of a mother's hand, the glint of rain on ancient armor, the way embers drift through the air like memories refusing to die. But when the action ignites, the film erupts with kinetic energy that borders on operatic. Every fight sequence feels choreographed like a cosmic ballet, where destruction is beauty and motion is meaning. Flames coil into dragons, Waves rise like titans, and thunder splits the heavens in scenes that leave you breathless. Yet, amid all that grandeur, the animators never lose the emotional center. The lighting itself becomes a storyteller, soft and warm when love glows, cold and fractured when betrayal strikes, blindingly radiant when divinity awakens. The contrast between light and dark is used not just for spectacle, but to illustrate transformation. Nezha's fiery inferno slowly takes on hues of gold and blue as his bond with Ao Bing deepens, symbolizing balance. Ao Bing's icy aura cracks with flashes of red, showing that even calm can burn. The environmental design continues to astonish. The mystical Chentang Pass feels tangible, carved from stone and myth, grounded in realism, yet shimmering with magic. The undersea kingdom of the Dragon Clan is an entirely different realm, luminescent, vast, filled with drifting lanterns, coral towers, and serpentine shadows that coil through the water like forgotten gods. The heavens, by contrast, are radiant but sterile, crafted in symmetrical perfection that contrasts sharply with the living, breathing imperfection of the mortal world. This deliberate duality, the sterile divine and the chaotic human, is what gives the film its cinematic soul. On a technical level, the animation surpasses anything achieved in the first Nezha. Every strand of hair, every droplet of water, every flicker of flame has weight, texture, and emotion. The advancements in particle effects and lighting simulation give the film a sense of realism so intense it borders on surrealism. The animators achieve the impossible, making the impossible feel utterly real. The use of motion capture combined with hand-drawn refinement brings an almost tactile quality to expressions and gestures, allowing the characters to convey profound emotion without a single word. And then there's the cinematography, a masterclass in dynamic storytelling. It never settles for static beauty. It moves with purpose. The camera weaves through clouds, spins during battles, dives beneath the sea, rises into the stars. Each transition between worlds feels seamless, as though the camera itself is caught in the flow of destiny. Wide panoramic shots establish scale, then suddenly cut to intimate close-ups that pull the viewer into the character's internal storms. The pacing of these visuals, when to explode, when to breathe, is orchestrated with musical precision. Even the way fire reflects on water, or how shadows stretch across the ruins of Chentang Pass, feels intentional, symbolic, powerful. The film constantly contrasts stillness and motion, silence and roar, creating rhythm through imagery alone. Nezha, too, is not merely animated, it's conducted like a symphony of sight and emotion. Every detail, from costume design to elemental energy, reflects the character's evolution. As Nezha and Ao Bing grow toward unity, so too do the visuals merge. Fire that no longer burns alone, water that no longer cools in isolation, light that holds both warmth and chill in perfect balance. The cinematography itself becomes the visual embodiment of the film's themes: duality, transformation, and the beauty that emerges when opposites collide. Watching it feels like witnessing myth reborn, like the universe itself is being painted before your eyes in real time. The film's visual ambition is staggering, but it never loses its heart. It's not art for the sake of spectacle. It's art for the sake of emotion. Every beam of light, every spark of flame, every ripple across the sea carries meaning. The visual style of Nezha, too, isn't just beautiful. It's alive. It's storytelling through color, through movement, through the visual language of gods and mortals, screaming and whispering all at once. It's not just a film to be watched. It's a film to be felt. If the visuals of Nezha, too, are the body of the film, then its music is the soul that breathes life into every frame. The soundtrack, composed by the brilliant and emotionally intuitive Zhao Jiping alongside his son Zhao Lin, stands as one of the most mesmerizing achievements in modern animation scoring. It doesn't just accompany the story, it guides it, shaping the rhythm of every moment, whispering secrets where words fail, and roaring through the heavens when the characters' emotions reach their breaking point. The score moves like an unseen current beneath the story's surface, a fusion of ancient mysticism and cinematic grandeur that ties the mythic world of Nezha, too, to something deeply human. Traditional Chinese instruments, like the guzheng, erhu, and dizi, intertwine with sweeping orchestral layers, creating a soundscape that feels both timeless and contemporary. It's not just background music, it's a living echo of the film's beating heart. When Nezha struggles with his destiny, the erhu's aching strings cry out in anguish, vibrating with the sound of rebellion and sorrow. When Ao Bing soars through the skies or plunges into the depths of the sea, the dizi's pure flowing notes trace his movements, as if the wind itself is singing his freedom. And in the moments when the two unite, the divine fire and the icy calm, the music rises into something transcendent, fusing Eastern melodies with Western symphonic might, evoking a sense of harmony that words could never describe. Every theme in the soundtrack is tied to a character's journey, and you can feel their growth through the evolution of the melodies. Nezha's theme, once chaotic and defiant, grows more structured and powerful as he learns to balance his inner turmoil. Ao Bing's theme, initially serene but fragile, swells into something bold and unrestrained as he learns to embrace both his dragon heritage and his humanity. The composers don't just repeat these motifs, they transform them, blending and reshaping them as the characters' destinies intertwine. By the climax, the once separate musical threads collide in a symphony that embodies their unity, turning battle into ballet and chaos into catharsis. Percussion also plays a massive role. Ancient war drums pound like the heartbeat of the gods, while softer taiko rhythms pulse beneath emotional revelations, echoing the rhythm of transformation. The sound design works hand in hand with the score. When fire ignites, the orchestra crackles with it. When waves crash, the strings swell and break like surf. Every sound, every note, every silence feels deliberately crafted to amplify what's on screen. There's an especially breathtaking sequence in which Nezha and Ao Bing face the wrath of the heavens, thunder rolling, lightning shattering the sky, and in that moment, the music doesn't merely accompany the visuals. It becomes the storm. Choirs chant in a forgotten language, horns blare like the cries of dragons, and deep bass drums pulse like the heartbeat of the cosmos. It's overwhelming, operatic, divine. Yet, just as quickly, the music knows when to fall silent. In scenes of grief or quiet revelation, the score strips itself bare, leaving only a trembling piano or a single flute to carry the weight of emotion. It's in those moments of stillness that the film's emotional truth strikes hardest. The composers understand that silence can sometimes scream louder than any orchestra, and they wield that power with precision. What makes this soundtrack so unforgettable is its ability to bridge worlds, the ancient and the modern, the mythical and the personal, the divine and the human. It feels like a spiritual continuation of the first film's score, but far more mature and emotionally layered. The fusion of traditional Chinese tonalities with modern symphonic structure mirrors the film's central theme: balance between forces, unity through conflict. The music of Nezha 2 doesn't simply accompany the hero's journey, it is the journey rising and falling, raging and soothing, reflecting the duality of the story itself. And as the film reaches its emotional crescendo, when Nezha and Aobing finally transcend the boundaries that once defined them, the orchestra swells to its fullest, blending fire and water and sound as perfectly as the animation blends them in light. The final notes linger long after the credits fade, resonating deep within the viewer's chest, as if the music itself refuses to let go, because how could it, when it has become a part of the story's very soul? Nezha 2 doesn't just give us visuals to remember, it gives us a sound that stays with you, haunting, beautiful, eternal. What came next was nothing short of extraordinary. The moment Nezha 2 reached the world, it was as if the storm of anticipation finally broke free, and audiences everywhere were swept away by its power. From the very first screenings, the air was electric. Critics and viewers alike emerged from theaters speechless, trying to process what they had just witnessed. It wasn't simply a sequel, it was a cinematic resurrection, a continuation that surpassed all expectations and redefined what Chinese animation could be. Reviews flooded in from every corner of the world, hailing it as a triumph of storytelling, emotion, and visual mastery. The animation industry, both in China and internationally, felt the tremor. Critics praised how the film didn't merely repeat the success of the first Nezha, but expanded it, deepened it, made it grander and more human at the same time. The complexity of the narrative, the maturity of the characters, and the poetic rhythm of its visuals drew comparisons to the greatest animated works ever created. It was called the Eastern Epic Reborn, a blend of mythology and modern emotion unlike anything audiences had seen before. Viewers felt it on a personal level. They cried, they cheered, they felt the thunder of the heavens and the ache of human hearts colliding with destiny. The box office reflected this emotional wave. Theaters sold out for weeks, lines wrapped around blocks, and the movie shattered multiple opening records across Asia, proving that the hunger for stories rooted in Chinese mythology, yet told with universal passion, had only grown stronger. But beyond commercial success, what truly cemented Nezha 2's legacy was the conversation it started. People weren't just talking about how spectacular it looked or how epic the battles were. They were debating its themes, quoting its lines, dissecting its symbolism. Forums and social media erupted with fan theories, discussions about the balance of fate and free will, about the cost of redemption, and even philosophical arguments over what it means to be human in a world ruled by gods. The younger generation saw themselves in Nezha's defiance and Aobing's quiet strength. Parents saw themselves in Li Jing and Lady Yin's sacrifices, and those who had ever struggled between expectation and freedom found their own story reflected in its mythic flames. Internationally, It was hailed as one of the finest examples of the new era of Chinese animation, a film that could stand shoulder to shoulder with any major studio release from Pixar, DreamWorks, or Studio Ghibli. Western critics marveled at its emotional intelligence, calling it a thunderous, poetic, and visually transcendent masterpiece that feels both ancient and futuristic. Awards soon followed. Nezha, too, dominated domestic film festivals, taking home Best Animated Feature and Best Visual Design, and even secured international nominations, marking a milestone for Chinese animation on the world stage. But perhaps its most lasting impact wasn't measured in trophies. It was in hearts. Fans began to refer to it not just as a movie, but as an experience, a cultural event that reminded them why they fell in love with cinema in the first place. Over time, Nezha, too, grew into something far greater than a blockbuster. It became a legend, a film that bridged generations, inspiring artists, musicians, and writers to draw from its themes of unity and rebellion. It sparked an entire wave of renewed interest in Chinese mythology and animation, influencing projects that came years later. And as the months turned into years, it transformed into a cultural cornerstone. Not only a classic, but a cult phenomenon, especially among those who grew up with its predecessor. Online communities began forming around it, fans creating art, music, even philosophical essays interpreting every glance, every note, every symbol hidden in its frames. Some called it the mythic awakening of a generation, a story that took an ancient legend and turned it into something modern, emotional, and profoundly human. In the end, Nezha, too, wasn't just received with applause, it was embraced, celebrated, lived. It reignited the fire of imagination across cultures and became the rare sequel that didn't merely honor its origins, but elevated them into the realm of the timeless. It wasn't just a movie that people watched, it was a story they carried with them, a reminder that legends never die, they evolve, and sometimes they come back even stronger, burning brighter than ever before. Behind the blazing spectacle of Nezha 2 lies a creation story almost as legendary as the film itself, a tale of obsession, vision, and the relentless pursuit of artistic perfection. At its heart stands the returning director and creative mastermind, Zhao Zi, whose bold imagination had already redefined Chinese animation with the first Nezha. But for the sequel, he didn't just want to continue the story. He wanted to transform the entire landscape of animated filmmaking. The project was once whispered about as an impossible dream, a production that would take years of innovation, rewriting, and technological advancement to achieve. And yet, Zhao Zi and his team at Chengdu Coco Cartoon Studio refused to compromise. They poured everything into it, time, emotion, and an almost spiritual level of detail that could only be born from love. From the earliest concept art to the final render, the production became a living organism, evolving, expanding, and reshaping itself to match the director's vision of myth brought to life. The studio worked with more than 2,000 artists, animators, and visual engineers, forming one of the largest collaborative animation efforts in China's history. Every department, from lighting to character modeling, from environmental design to fluid simulation, operated as if it were crafting not an animated film, but a myth reborn for the modern world. The source material, rooted deeply in the ancient Chinese epic investiture of the gods, Fengshen Yanyi, served as the spine of the narrative. But Nezha, too, took its mythology and infused it with emotional realism, grounding the fantasy in relatable human struggle. Jiaozi didn't merely retell Nezha's tale. He reinterpreted it for a generation caught between destiny and choice, between tradition and self-definition. What's fascinating is how the production wove technology with artistry. The studio developed new rendering algorithms to capture the movement of fire and water, the central elemental forces that symbolize Nezha and Aobing's intertwined fates. Unlike the first film, which relied heavily on particle simulations, the sequel introduced a hybrid system combining physics-based animation with handcrafted frame design, allowing animators to sculpt flames and waves as if painting with emotion itself. It's why every burst of fire and swirl of ocean in Nezha 2 feels alive, not just visually impressive, but expressive, communicating mood and intent like a living character. The cinematography, handled through a blend of virtual camera systems and AI-assisted lighting, gave animators control over depth, lens distortion, and dynamic focus, creating that signature cinematic realism rarely achieved in animated films. Scenes were treated as though they were shot through actual lenses, with camera operators virtually moving through the 3D environment to capture angles and lighting in real time. This gave the film its stunning sense of motion, where the camera doesn't just show the world, it moves with it, swirling through chaos and serenity alike. The production also pushed the boundaries of motion capture technology. For the first time in the studio's history, martial artists and acrobats were brought in to perform Nezha's and Aobing's battle sequences, allowing animators to layer authentic movement dynamics over stylized animation. This fusion of human energy and digital precision resulted in fight choreography that feels fluid, kinetic, and emotionally charged. A dance of gods rendered with the physics of real life. Yet, what makes Nezha 2 truly unique isn't only the technology, but the spirit of its creation. Jiaozi reportedly spent months revising emotional beats and character arcs, insisting that every frame carry meaning. He wanted the film to breathe, to pulse with the essence of its themes: redemption, duality, and rebirth. Every decision, from color palettes to sound design, was made to reinforce that emotional heartbeat. The production's timeline stretched longer than expected, with delays caused not by setbacks, but by the team's relentless perfectionism. Artists reworked entire sequences multiple times to find that perfect balance between grandeur and intimacy, myth and humanity. And when it came to visual symbolism, nothing was accidental. Nezha's fiery aura subtly shifts in hue depending on his state of mind. Aobing's icy textures refract light differently as he grows emotionally warmer. Even the architecture of the divine realms was built to reflect the balance between chaos and harmony that defines the story's central conflict. What emerged after years of labor wasn't just an animated movie. It was an epic built from sweat, imagination, and devotion to mythic storytelling. Nezha 2 became a cultural milestone not only for what it depicted, but for how it was made, a statement that Chinese animation could reach the same emotional and technical heights as any global powerhouse, and perhaps even surpass them by infusing technology with soul. Every brushstroke of light, every breath of flame, every tear glimmering on screen carries within it the weight of hundreds of artists who believe that legends deserve to live again, not as static stories of the past, but as living, breathing reflections of who we are and what we dream to become. Every masterpiece, no matter how breathtaking, stands on the razor's edge between brilliance and imperfection. And Nezha, too, is no exception. Its strengths are monumental, towering over most animated films of its generation, yet it is precisely this ambition, this pursuit of mythic grandeur, that also exposes its few but noticeable flaws. What makes the film truly stand out is its audacity, its refusal to play it safe. From the first frame, you can feel that this is not a sequel made for profit, but for purpose. It carries a mythic weight, fusing heart-wrenching emotion with jaw-dropping visuals, turning Chinese folklore into a cinematic language that feels both ancient and futuristic. The storytelling is one of its greatest triumphs, layered, poetic, and unafraid to confront big ideas. It dives into questions of identity, destiny, and rebirth with a depth that most animated features only brush against. The character writing is exquisite. Nezha and Aobing are no longer archetypes of hero and rival. They are living, breathing contradictions, torn between power and vulnerability, rage and compassion. Their evolution drives the narrative like a heartbeat, transforming what could have been a simple, mythic continuation into a deeply human story about connection, trauma, and transformation. Visually, Nezha too pushes boundaries in ways that redefine the standard of animation. Every frame is a painting, alive with texture and motion, a symphony of light and shadow sculpted by technology and artistry in perfect unison. The elemental choreography, fire dancing against water, sky fracturing into divine storms, isn't just spectacle. It's storytelling through energy. It's emotion expressed as physics. Combined with its meticulously crafted cinematography and transcendent musical score, the film immerses viewers in a sensory experience so overwhelming it feels almost spiritual. Another of its towering strengths lies in how it respects its mythological roots while reinventing them. It never treats folklore as static. It treats it as a living entity, breathing new meaning into ancient symbols. The film's blending of Eastern philosophy and modern emotional realism gives it a universality few animated movies achieve. It speaks to global audiences without sacrificing its cultural identity, a rare balance that makes it both deeply Chinese and undeniably universal. The thematic richness is staggering, exploring destiny as a choice, not a chain, and turning cosmic conflict into an allegory for self-acceptance and unity. And yet, where there is fire, there must also be shadow. For all its brilliance, Nezha, too, can sometimes be too ambitious. Its narrative, though profound, occasionally teeters under the weight of its own symbolism. Some viewers found themselves momentarily lost in its density. The film demands attention, emotional intelligence, and patience, leaving those seeking a straightforward story feeling overwhelmed. The pacing, too, falters at times. Moments of breathtaking emotional intimacy sometimes linger a little too long before the story surges forward again. Its scale, so monumental, occasionally overshadows the smaller, quieter beats that gave the first Nezha its charm. There's also a case to be made that the film's philosophical tone, meditative, abstract, poetic, may alienate younger audiences who expect constant momentum. It's a sequel that chooses contemplation over convenience. And while that's its greatest artistic virtue, it's also the source of its only real weakness. It risks being too grand, too introspective, for those expecting a more traditional hero's journey. Yet even its flaws feel deliberate, as if Jiaozi himself accepted them as the price of creating something that transcends formula. Compared to similar films, even to giants like Spirited Away, Your Name, or Kung Fu Panda, Nezha 2 stands out as bolder, rawer, more emotionally elemental. Where others polish their edges, this film burns with imperfection and truth. It's less of a comfort and more of a confrontation, not afraid to show its scars. And that's exactly why it lingers long after the screen fades to black. In the realm of sequels, few manage to expand their mythology without losing the soul of the original. Yet, Nezha 2 does precisely that. It takes everything that worked before and deepens it, enriching the lore, refining the emotion, and amplifying the spectacle until it feels operatic in scale. It dares to ask its audience not just to watch, but to feel, to think, to question, to rise with its characters. In the end, its greatest strength is the same as its greatest risk: its refusal to compromise. It's a film that demands to be experienced, not consumed. It stands as a blazing symbol of creative freedom, a declaration that animation can be art, philosophy, and legend all at once. And perhaps that's why, even with its few imperfections, Nezha 2 doesn't just stand out, it ascends. It's not just another chapter in the saga, it's a revolution. A fire that burns so fiercely it leaves a mark on everyone who witnesses it. In a world already defined by chaos and destiny, Nezha 2 plunges us deeper into the mythic and emotional universe that captured hearts in its predecessor, taking us on a journey where personal struggle and cosmic consequence collide in breathtaking ways. The main storyline is a masterful interplay of destiny, choice, and transformation, centering once again on Nezha, the fiery, rebellious hero whose first battle against fate set the stage for this epic sequel. After the events of the first film, Nezha is no longer just a child defying prophecy. He is a figure caught between worlds, between human emotion and divine expectation, struggling to reconcile his fiery nature with the responsibility that comes from being a protector of the realm. The central plot is ignited when Nezha and Ao Bing, the dragon prince who once stood as rival and ally, are drawn into a supernatural catastrophe that threatens to unravel the balance between humans, gods, and demons. This crisis is not just external. It mirrors the inner turmoil of both heroes, forcing them into a literal and symbolic fusion that challenges their identities, tests their loyalties, and demands that they see the world through each other's eyes. Their souls become bound within a single vessel, a narrative device that drives much of the film's tension and emotion, compelling them to navigate shared fears, desires, and regrets. As the plot unfolds, we witness not only grand battles and divine conflicts, but also tender, intimate moments where the characters confront past mistakes, family expectations, and the burdens of destiny. Nezha's relationship with his parents, Li Jing and Lady Yin, evolves under this pressure, showing that love is as much about sacrifice and understanding as it is about protection, while Ao Bing must grapple with his father, Ao Guang, and the rigid expectations of his dragon lineage, balancing duty against personal growth. the storyline expands across diverse realms, from the mortal world's villages and forests to the dazzling, treacherous depths of the Dragon Clan's undersea kingdom and the ethereal heights of the heavens themselves, each location carrying symbolic weight and reflecting the character's emotional states. Alongside these settings, the narrative is propelled by an intricate dance of alliances, betrayals, and philosophical exploration. Taiyi Zhenren, once a mentor figure, now becomes an active participant in their shared struggle, guiding them through moral quandaries and helping them harness their combined powers, while other immortals and antagonists create layers of conflict that challenge not only their abilities, but their understanding of right, wrong, and what it truly means to be a hero. The story's arc builds toward a climactic convergence where personal growth, relational bonds, and cosmic stakes collide in spectacular fashion. The fusion of Nezha and Aobing becomes both a literal and metaphorical force, allowing them to confront celestial authority, redeem past errors, and reshape the fate that once seemed immutable. Themes of duality, balance, sacrifice, and unity are woven seamlessly into the action, making every battle more than spectacle. Each clash a dialogue between fire and water, rebellion and duty, destiny and choice. What makes the plot of Nezha 2 so compelling is its refusal to settle for conventional heroism. It transforms the journey into a meditation on connection, showing that true power arises not from dominance or defiance alone, but from empathy, understanding, and the willingness to merge strengths with another, even when it challenges one's very sense of self. The story pulses with energy, emotion, and intellect, blending the grandeur of myth with the intimacy of human experience. By the film's resolution, the plot does more than conclude an adventure. It redefines the characters and the world they inhabit. Nezha and Aobing emerge transformed, their union emblematic of harmony, their struggles illustrating that destiny is not a chain, but a canvas upon which courage, love, and sacrifice paint the future. In essence, Nezha 2 is a sweeping, multi-layered epic that entwines thrilling action, profound character development, and philosophical depth, crafting a storyline that keeps viewers on the edge of their seats while challenging them to reflect on the nature of identity, choice, and the bonds that bind us, leaving audiences mesmerized, breathless, and profoundly moved from beginning to end. As the story of Nezha 2 unfolds, it's the characters who carry its emotional weight, and understanding them is essential to grasping the soul of the film. At the heart of the narrative stands Nezha himself, the fiery, defiant hero whose journey from outcast to savior continues with greater depth and intensity in this sequel. He is voiced with passionate nuance, capturing both the uncontainable energy of a young demigod and the growing maturity that comes from facing cosmic responsibility. His voice conveys the tension between rebellion and duty, laughter and anguish, making every line resonate with the audience's empathy. Beside him is Aobing, the dragon prince of the East Sea, who returns not merely as a rival, but as a complex counterpart, equally torn between tradition and personal growth. His performance balances regality, inner conflict, and the quiet strength that emerges as he forms a bond with Nezha. The interplay between Nezha and Aobing is electrifying, their voices weaving together like fire and water, sometimes clashing, sometimes harmonizing, reflecting the deeper theme of duality that runs throughout the film. Supporting these two are the parental figures Li Jing and Lady Yin, whose roles have evolved to carry profound emotional resonance. Li Jing's voice embodies authority tempered by love, capturing a father learning to stand with his child rather than above him, while Lady Yin's tone reflects compassion, sacrifice, and the quiet resilience of a mother navigating the consequences of a world that fears her child's power. The tension and tenderness in their interactions give weight to Nezha's personal journey, grounding the mythic spectacle in deeply human experience. Taiyi Zhenren, the mentor figure, returns with a voice that combines wisdom, patience, and a subtle humor, guiding the protagonists while also revealing his own vulnerabilities and stakes in the unfolding events. His presence emphasizes the importance of guidance, trust, and the passing of knowledge across generations. And his vocal performance ensures that every lesson lands with both gravity and warmth. On the antagonistic front, Ao Guang, the Dragon King and father to Ao Bing, is portrayed with a commanding, authoritative voice that conveys both expectation and disappointment, illustrating the tension between familial duty and personal morality. Other immortals and mythic figures are distinguished through voices that reflect their divine or ethereal nature, adding layers of texture to the narrative and ensuring that the audience senses the weight of mythic authority in every scene. The cast's chemistry is remarkable, not just in dialogue delivery, but in the emotional resonance that carries through battles, quiet moments, and confrontations with destiny. Each character's voice complements their arc. Nezha's impulsive energy, Ao Bing's restrained power, parental guidance, divine authority, creating a tapestry of sound that is as rich and immersive as the animation itself. It's this intricate weaving of voice, emotion, and narrative purpose that allows viewers to fully inhabit the story, making each character's triumphs, struggles, and transformations feel immediate and visceral. In Nezha, too, the characters are not merely figures moving through a plot. They are the heartbeat of the film, brought to life by performances that capture the mythic and the human in equal measure, ensuring that audiences are drawn not only into the spectacle of the story, but into the very souls of the heroes who define it. Beneath the whirlwind of fire, water, and celestial conflict that defines Nezha 2 lies a rich tapestry of themes and moral lessons that elevate it from spectacle to soul-stirring narrative, exploring questions as old as myth itself, while speaking directly to the human heart. At its core, the film interrogates the nature of destiny. Are we bound by fate, or can we forge our own path through courage, empathy, and understanding? Nezha and Ao Bing embody this tension, two beings born into roles shaped by prophecy, expectation, and lineage, yet challenged to discover their own identities beyond the labels imposed upon them. Through their intertwined journey, the film conveys that true power is not merely physical strength or mastery over the elements, but the capacity to reconcile conflict, embrace difference, and transform adversity into growth. Duality and balance emerge as central motifs: fire and water, rebellion and duty, chaos and harmony, showing that opposing forces need not be enemies, but can coexist and even complement each other when approached with awareness and compassion. Another profound theme is the transformative nature of empathy. By binding Nezha and Ao Bing together, The story forces each to live in the other's perspective, to feel the weight of another's struggle and the fragility behind a facade of power. It's a visceral exploration of connection, revealing that understanding and cooperation are essential not only for survival, but for the maturation of spirit. Family, in its many forms, is another cornerstone of the narrative. The film examines parental love, guidance, and sacrifice, emphasizing that true support comes from listening, trusting, and allowing children to grow into their own agency. Li Jing and Lady Yin are not just guardians of Nezha, they are mirrors reflecting the tensions between protection and freedom, shaping his journey without dictating it. The narrative also delves into themes of redemption and moral accountability. Characters who were once adversaries confront their past actions and the consequences of inherited roles, demonstrating that courage includes the willingness to atone, reconcile, and forge new alliances. This ties closely to the film's meditation on personal responsibility. Heroism is not defined by glory or victory alone, but by the integrity of choices made under pressure, often in the face of overwhelming odds. The story further explores the intersection of tradition and modernity. While steeped in Chinese myth, the lessons transcend cultural boundaries, illustrating universal truths about resilience, the fluidity of identity, and the importance of forging one's own path while honoring the past. It asks viewers to consider how ancient wisdom can inform contemporary struggles, showing that mythology is not static, but alive, instructive, and capable of guiding human behavior across time. Sacrifice and unity are woven throughout, reinforcing that no hero exists in isolation. True strength arises from collaboration, mutual respect, and the courage to share burdens, even when it challenges pride or ego. The film's climactic sequences make this tangible. Victory is only achieved when Nezha and Aobing synchronize not just their powers, but their intentions, their hearts, and their understanding of one another. Ultimately, the moral landscape of Nezha 2 is as intricate as its visual design. It teaches that identity is complex and multifaceted, that growth demands empathy, and that destiny is not a chain, but a canvas on which courage, compassion, and unity paint possibility. Through its mythic lens, the film encourages audiences to embrace duality, to find balance within chaos, and to recognize that heroism is inseparable from the heart, a lesson that lingers long after the screen fades to black, inspiring reflection, connection, and the desire to face one's own life with the same fiery determination and open-heartedness exemplified by its heroes. The heartbeat of Nezha 2 is not only its epic battles or stunning visuals, but the way its characters grow through connection, conflict, and shared experience. And nowhere is this more compelling than in the evolution of the relationships between Nezha, Aobing, and those around them. From the very beginning, Nezha and Aobing exist in a tension-laden space. Once seen as rivals, their destinies are inextricably intertwined, and the narrative cleverly forces them into proximity both physically and emotionally, binding their fates in ways that are literal and symbolic. Initially, their relationship is fraught with friction. Fire meets water, rebellion meets restraint, ego meets duty. They clash not only in battle but in philosophy, each challenging the other's perception of strength, responsibility, and freedom. Yet it is precisely these conflicts that set the stage for profound growth. As the story progresses and the characters are forced to navigate shared trials, they begin to understand one another in a way that transcends rivalry. Empathy emerges as the driving force. Nezha learns to see the weight of Ao Bing's legacy, while Ao Bing confronts the pain and isolation behind Nezha's fiery defiance. Their relationship evolves from adversarial to collaborative, then to deeply interdependent, reflecting the film's central themes of duality, balance, and unity. This evolution is mirrored in Nezha's relationship with his parents, Li Jing and Lady Yin, whose guidance shifts from rigid protection to nuanced support. Early in the film, the tension between parental expectation and Nezha's autonomous choices creates friction and emotional stakes that resonate across generations. As Nezha demonstrates courage, empathy, and responsibility, Li Jing and Lady Yin respond not with control, but with understanding, their bond deepening into a relationship based on mutual respect and shared growth, rather than obligation alone. Taiyi Zhenren, as mentor and spiritual guide, also plays a pivotal role in relationship dynamics. He mediates, challenges, and nurtures, acting as both observer and participant, showing that relationships are not static, but evolve with circumstance, insight, and shared trials. The interplay between mentors and heroes emphasizes the passing of wisdom, the importance of trust, and the subtle shifts that occur when guidance meets independent thought. Secondary characters, including the divine and mortal figures that intersect with Nezha and Ao Bing, further illuminate the evolution of relational dynamics. Alliances are tested, loyalties are questioned, and conflicts force characters to redefine who they trust and what they value, demonstrating that growth is rarely linear and often requires confrontation, humility, and courage. By the climax, the relationships between the main characters have transformed dramatically. Nezha and Ao Bing no longer exist as separate forces, but as a synergistic pair whose understanding and cooperation embody the film's philosophical heart. The parental and mentor bonds have matured, reflecting acceptance, guidance, and emotional intelligence rather than control or simple authority. Every confrontation, every dialogue, every shared struggle contributes to the intricate web of human and divine connection, making the audience feel the weight, the tenderness, and the triumph of these evolving relationships. In the end, Nezha too demonstrates that heroism is inseparable from relational growth, that strength is amplified through empathy, understanding, and unity, and that the most compelling victories are those achieved not alone, but together. The evolution of these relationships is what transforms the film from an epic story of mythic conflict into a profoundly human journey, leaving viewers not only awestruck by the spectacle, but deeply moved by the emotional resonance that binds its characters and, ultimately, its audience to the heart of the story. What sets Nezha 2 apart in the realm of animated storytelling is the meticulous, almost surgical attention given to character development, particularly that of its protagonist, Nezha, whose journey is both a mythic spectacle and a deeply human exploration. From the very first scenes, the film establishes Nezha not just as a fiery hero, but as a layered, contradictory individual, impulsive yet reflective, brash yet capable of profound empathy, imbued with immense power, but still wrestling with insecurities, and the burden of expectation. This duality is handled with precision. Every action, every line of dialogue, every emotional reaction serves not merely to advance the plot, but to reveal facets of Nezha's personality that deepen the audience's understanding of who he is. Unlike many animated heroes who remain static in their traits, Nezha evolves visibly and emotionally. The film charts his transformation from a character defined by rebellion and external conflict to one capable of self-awareness, restraint, and collaboration, and this evolution is never rushed or superficial. Key to his compelling nature is how his flaws are framed as strengths in context. His fiery temper drives him to confront injustice, his defiance challenges rigid authority, and his impulsivity, when tempered by empathy, allows him to forge unique solutions to seemingly insurmountable problems. The narrative carefully balances spectacle with introspection, showing Nezha in moments of quiet reflection, vulnerability, and moral choice, ensuring that viewers see him as a being with depth rather than a mere action-driven archetype. Aobing's presence as both counterpart and mirror further enhances Nezha's development. Their intertwined journey forces the protagonist to confront not only external threats, but also internal contradictions, jealousy, fear, pride, and the desire for belonging, and to negotiate these in the context of a shared fate. This interplay magnifies Nezha's growth, making each decision and emotional breakthrough resonate with narrative weight and thematic significance. The film also invests heavily in relational development as a vehicle for character growth. Interactions with Li Jing, Lady Yin, and Taiye Zhenren are crafted to highlight Nezha's evolving understanding of trust, responsibility, and interdependence. Each relationship functions as a mirror, reflecting his progress and revealing the complexity of his moral and emotional landscape. Another compelling aspect of Nezha's characterization is how seamlessly the film integrates mythology with human psychology. He is simultaneously a demigod capable of cosmic feats and a relatable figure navigating identity, expectation, and self-doubt. This dual lens allows audiences to engage with him on multiple levels, admiring his heroism while empathizing with his vulnerabilities. Moreover, the visual and vocal performance amplify this development. Subtle shifts in posture, gesture, and facial expression, combined with a dynamic and nuanced vocal portrayal, convey internal conflict and transformation in ways that words alone cannot. Even during high-octane action sequences, Nezha's choices and reactions are informed by his emotional growth, making every battle not just a spectacle, but a testament to character evolution. Ultimately, Nezha is compelling because he embodies a journey that is both extraordinary and profoundly relatable. He is a hero shaped by myth, yet humanized by doubt, compassion, and the struggle to reconcile power with purpose. The careful handling of his development ensures that viewers are not just witnessing an adventure, but experiencing an intimate emotional odyssey, one that combines the thrill of mythic conflict with the resonance of a deeply personal coming-of-age story, leaving audiences fully invested in every triumph, failure, and revelation along the way. In Nezha 2, the visual style and animation are not merely tools to tell a story, but active participants in shaping the narrative, immersing viewers in a world that feels both mythic and palpably real, a fusion of legend and sensory wonder. The animation quality reaches unprecedented heights, blending hyper-realistic textures with stylized, expressive character design to create a universe where fire can dance like a living entity, water can convey emotion, and the very air seems charged with the tension and energy of divine conflict. Every frame is meticulously composed with layers of environmental detail, from sweeping clouds and rippling seas to intricate temple architecture and celestial realms, all designed to support the emotional tone of each scene. The character movements are fluid and intentional, a marriage of physics-based simulation and handcrafted artistry that allows Nezha and Aobing to express power, grace, and vulnerability simultaneously. Their gestures, postures, and combat sequences are choreographed with cinematic precision, reflecting not just martial skill but emotional evolution, so that a single flick of a wrist or a leap through the sky communicates story as effectively as dialogue. Cinematography in the film is equally extraordinary, employing virtual camera techniques that mimic real-world lenses to create depth, perspective, and dynamic motion that pull viewers into the heart of the action. Sweeping aerial shots give a sense of scale and grandeur, while intimate close-ups allow for the quiet conveyance of emotion and moral tension. The interplay of light and shadow is another defining element. Warm glows of Nezha's fire, the cool, reflective sheen of Aobing's water, and the shifting celestial illuminations all function as emotional signifiers, visually articulating themes of duality, balance, and transformation. Scenes are staged with a painterly sensibility, framing battles, emotional confrontations, and quieter reflective moments with a compositional elegance that mirrors classical Chinese art, while embracing the dynamism of modern CGI. Particle effects, fluid dynamics, and volumetric lighting are used not for spectacle alone, but to heighten narrative resonance. A wave crashing against the shore mirrors internal struggle, a sudden blaze punctuates a moment of personal revelation, and cascading sparks visually narrate conflict and catharsis. The color palette is carefully calibrated, shifting subtly to reflect mood and thematic undercurrents. Fiery reds and oranges dominate moments of rebellion and passion, while cooler blues and purples underscore reflection, reconciliation, and the emotional convergence of the protagonists. Additionally, the film experiments with perspective and motion in ways rarely seen in animation, with the virtual camera swooping, spiraling, and sometimes following characters in continuous, unbroken takes that heighten tension and intimacy simultaneously. This creates a visceral sense of presence, making viewers feel as if they are moving alongside the heroes through both the chaos of battle and the serenity of contemplation. The visual storytelling is so layered that even the smallest details, the flicker of a candle, the ripple of water across scales, the shimmer of celestial light, carry narrative weight, reinforcing character development and thematic depth without a single word of dialogue. Ultimately, the combination of animation quality, visual style, and cinematography in Nezha 2 does more than dazzle the senses. It elevates the film to an immersive, emotional, and philosophical experience, where every visual choice is deliberate, every movement meaningful, and every scene crafted to pull the viewer not just into a story, but into the very soul of its mythic universe, making the spectacle inseparable from the narrative and the emotional journey of its characters. As the visuals of Nezha 2 sweep across the screen with breathtaking grandeur, the music and soundtrack work in tandem to elevate every frame, infusing the film with emotional depth, cultural resonance, and narrative power. The score, composed with remarkable sensitivity and imagination, serves not merely as accompaniment, but as a storytelling device, guiding the audience through the highs and lows of the mythic journey, accentuating tension and deepening the resonance of every character moment. From the first notes, the soundtrack signals the epic scale of the narrative, blending traditional Chinese instruments, such as the guzheng, erhu, and dizi, with sweeping orchestral arrangements and contemporary cinematic scoring techniques. This fusion creates a soundscape that is both timeless and modern, anchoring the mythological elements in a cultural authenticity while also appealing to global audiences accustomed to large-scale cinematic music. Themes for Nezha and Aobing are distinct yet interwoven, reflecting their contrasting personalities and the evolution of their relationship. Nezha's leitmotif is fiery, rhythmic, and unpredictable, mirroring his impulsive nature, courage, and internal struggle, while Aobing's theme flows with a fluid, measured elegance, evoking his restraint, wisdom, and the weight of legacy. As their paths intertwine, the composer cleverly blends these motifs, signaling narrative convergence and emotional connection, so that the music itself becomes a reflection of character development and thematic duality. Key emotional moments, whether intimate reflections, familial reconciliations, or moral choices, are underscored by subtle, nuanced musical textures that elevate the storytelling without overwhelming it, allowing viewers to feel the internal stakes alongside the spectacle. During action sequences and climactic confrontations, the score shifts seamlessly to full orchestral grandeur, combining percussive intensity, soaring strings, and dynamic brass to match the kinetic energy of the animation, ensuring that the music amplifies the drama and urgency of every movement. Beyond the technical brilliance, what makes the soundtrack truly notable is how it supports the story on a symbolic and emotional level. Every chord progression, rhythmic pattern, and melodic contour is carefully designed to echo the film's central themes of duality, balance, and transformation. The music communicates what words cannot, giving voice to the internal struggles of characters, the cosmic stakes of the plot, and the intimate moments of empathy and connection that define the narrative. In essence, the soundtrack of Nezha 2 is a character in its own right, omnipresent, expressive, and integral to the audience's journey, ensuring that every visual, emotional, and thematic beat resonates with greater intensity. It elevates the film from a visual feast to a multisensory odyssey, where sound and image converge to create a mythic, immersive experience that lingers long after the final note has faded. When Nezha 2 finally reached audiences around the world, it did so with the kind of anticipation reserved for cinematic events that promise not only spectacle, but emotional and cultural resonance. And the reception reflected the film's ambitious scope and profound storytelling. Critics lauded the movie for its masterful blending of mythology, character depth, and visual innovation, often highlighting how it elevated the art of Chinese animation to a level that could compete on the global stage with the likes of Studio Ghibli, Pixar, and other cinematic giants. Reviewers praised the nuanced character development, particularly the interplay between Nezha and Ao Bing, noting how their evolving relationship added layers of emotional complexity rarely seen in animated sequels. The animation, visual style, and cinematography were consistently described as breathtaking, with many critics emphasizing that the film did not rely solely on technical spectacle, but integrated visual storytelling to enhance both narrative and thematic depth. Audiences responded with overwhelming enthusiasm, drawn not only to the stunning action sequences, but to the rich emotional arcs, philosophical undertones, and the mythic resonance that underpinned every scene. Box office numbers reflected this excitement, with Nezha 2 achieving record-breaking openings and maintaining strong word-of-mouth momentum across multiple regions. Beyond commercial success, the film sparked conversations about the global potential of Chinese animation, highlighting how culturally specific storytelling could achieve universal appeal when executed with artistry, emotional intelligence, and ambition. Its themes of destiny, empathy, duality, and transformation resonated widely, appealing to both young viewers drawn to the dynamic action and older audiences captivated by the moral and philosophical depth. Over time, Nezha 2 began to acquire a status beyond mere blockbuster acclaim. It became a reference point for excellence in animated storytelling, a touchstone for discussions on how sequels can honor and expand their source material without sacrificing emotional or thematic integrity. While it may not yet be labeled a classic in the traditional sense of decades-spanning reverence, it undeniably became a cult favorite among animation enthusiasts, mythology fans, and cinephiles who admired its audacity, its beauty, and its willingness to challenge expectations. Its influence extended beyond its immediate release, inspiring discourse on animation as a medium for complex narratives, and its characters, themes, and visual language began to permeate popular culture, signaling that Nezha 2 had achieved a rare feat, a film that entertains, enlightens, and leaves an indelible mark on both its audience and the broader cinematic landscape. In essence, the reception of Nezha 2 confirms its place as a landmark in modern animation, a film that not only captivated viewers in the moment, but continues to resonate, provoke thought, and inspire awe long after the credits roll. Behind the cinematic marvel that is Nezha 2 lies a production story as ambitious and intricate as the film itself, reflecting a combination of visionary direction, cutting-edge technology, and a deep reverence for mythological source material. The film was directed by a team renowned for their ability to blend narrative depth with spectacular animation, ensuring that every scene not only dazzles visually, but also advances the emotional and thematic core of the story. Produced by a leading animation studio celebrated for pushing the boundaries of Chinese animation, the project benefited from a level of technical expertise, creative freedom, and production scale rarely seen in the industry. The source material draws from classical Chinese mythology, particularly the legends surrounding Nezha and the Dragon Clan. Yet the creators approach these ancient tales with a fresh perspective, reimagining characters, relationships, and conflicts in ways that resonate with contemporary audiences while honoring the rich culture.